The cost of chaos comes from two primary things. The first thing is when we compete with ourselves. I used to work for McDonnell Douglas. The average person in my office made $320,000 or $25,000 a year. We typically had to sell at least $3 million a year as part of our comp plan. And every time we do a transaction, and typically we do only 1 or 2 transactions a year, maybe 3, we would have to stop what we were doing to make sure the order got booked correctly, make sure it was scheduled to be produced, make sure somebody had contacted the client to tell them when they could expect delivery. And we had to make sure the client got trained, and all these things that we had to do. It basically took about, 6 weeks to go through that process. So if I sold Bill something today, the next 6 weeks, all I'm doing is making sure that order's been handled correctly. Because one of the things that is interesting, people think a sale and revenue are the same things. Now, I didn't warn you. Nobody warned you. I'm a recovering cost accountant. And so every now and then accounting stuff's going to jump out of me. And just because I make a sale doesn't mean I have any revenue. Did you ever sell anything? Somebody took an order and you actually didn't have the product and couldn't get it? Did that ever occur? And so if that occurs, you had the sale, but there's no revenue. So in the case of McDonnell Douglas, if I didn't make sure the order got handled correctly and it got screwed up, my client had a long time to cancel the order, and I'd have no commission, no revenue, no nothing. So I'd spend 6 weeks for every transaction. I did about 3 transactions a year. So how many weeks was I not selling a year? 18 weeks a year I was not selling. That is McDonnell Douglas competing with me, trying to get the most revenue possible. It was not my competitors that were beating me up. It was my own company. So when we talk about the cost of chaos, a lot of it is how do we get our own company out of the way of producing revenue? And I'm sure that doesn't happen in your companies. But in the places I've worked, my biggest competitor has always been my own company. The second place the cost of chaos occurs is when we choose to fight the science. When there is a scientific reason to do one thing, but we've always done it this other way, we want to keep doing it that way. I'm sure that doesn't happen here either. But those are examples where the chaos just becomes rampant. Where we're competing with ourselves, and I'm sure, again, you guys don't have this, but it's not always the case that sales and marketing and engineering and finance all get along well. There's times they kind of don't see things the same way, so that's a great example of competing with ourselves. So as we go through the next few hours, I want to show you how to lower that cost of chaos, because that profit number that a number of you talked about, if we can't do this profitably, it's not a good idea. If you start removing the chaos, it's amazing how quickly the profit starts to go up.